So there's no need getting started and then stopping. And so we can just kind of like have like an informal type of exchange. How's everybody doing? Everybody all right? Very cool? Very cool? Okay. You know, check this out. I saw something very interesting. You know, when Allah tells us to do something or not do something, it's based on Allah's like knowledge, obviously. It's based on His knowledge of who we are, based on His knowledge of how He created us. All right? Let me give you 3 examples of like just shows how this deed is so beautiful. Right? Okay. Example number 1. These all have to do with like sort of like 3 studies that were done. 52 studies and then one is just. So they did a study, and they had this man, young man, 20s. And they told him he was taking a test. So he went to the room. Now before he went in, they checked his testosterone levels. Now, testosterone, of course, men, testosterone, right? Our sex drive, so on and so forth, like hair on our face, that kind of testosterone. We even have testosterone in our brains. All right, even in our brains. So the young man goes in and they take his testosterone levels. I'll use my numbers, which are like, the levels are at a 6. All right? So he goes in there and he's like he's taking the test. While he's getting ready for the test, they send in a young woman around his age. She goes in, they tell her she's ready to take the test too. So she goes in the room, he's there too. And so they just start talking. Nothing, just you know, like how's the weather type talk. Nice weather we're having type talk. So then they call her out of the room, and then they call him out of the room, and they check his testosterone levels. And they're 9. They're 9. There was no kind of flirtation, nothing like that. Nothing. But just by having that woman in that room next to him, and he's simply talking, his testosterone levels went up. Now, what did the Prophet say, peace be upon him? A man and a woman who are not married should not be alone together. Because if they do, the third party is shaitan. You see what I'm saying? Okay, number 2. Check out this one. A study was done. MIT. They had this guy, and they showed this man pictures of a woman who was like how they show it in, you know, sexualized, right? And a woman who's clothed. All right? Now, there's a part of our brain that activates when our brain realizes we're dealing with a human being. It activates. Human being. When our brain deals with an object, there's little activity. Human being, activity. An object, little activity. All right? Now, in this study, they showed the men the 2 types of women. When the men saw the woman who was clothed, that area of the brain was activated. Human. When they saw a woman who was sexual, and a sexual presentation, they deactivated. It's as if the brain was looking at objects. Is that deep? It's a lot deeper. What? Now, Allah's not going to break all this down to us. Allah's not going to break it down to us. Allah's not going to say, well, because... No. He's going to allow us to develop. He'll allow us to develop. He'll allow our understanding to grow. You know, and as our understanding grows, we catch up. But Allah is such where He deserves to be followed, just whether He gives us information or not. Is that deep, though? Human, when she's clothed, it activates. When she's not clothed, object. And so when you deal with the objectification of women in Western society, women being objects, they're physical objects. That's how they talk. That's how they talk to see themselves. That's how they express themselves. That's how they, that's how they present themselves. They're objects. That type of thing. Is that deep? What? This demon. Okay, last one. Serotonin. Serotonin is something that's found in the body, and it's found more in men than in women. Serotonin. You know what serotonin does? Serotonin, one of the things that it does, it regulates emotions. It regulates emotions. Now, men have more serotonin than women. right? So obviously, if men have something that regulates their emotions, obviously, they're going to tend to be less emotional, right? And then a woman who has less serotonin, less in regulating emotions, and this is not bad, it's not good, just it is, and less, she will tend to be more emotional. He will tend to be less emotional, right? He regulates his emotions, right? So what happens when these people, particularly these young women, get into a boyfriend-girlfriend culture? What happens when they get into a boyfriend-girlfriend culture? And she gets into a boyfriend-girlfriend culture with him, their boyfriend-girlfriend, right? It's her first time, and they hook up. They hook up. And then when they hook up, because the experience was so emotional for her, because it was so intimate for her, she's attached to him. But he regulates his emotions. He ain't attached. Right? He's figuring out what other conquest he can make. So you actually hear young women talk about, how can men be so cold? How can men be so cold? Because men have a tendency to regulate their emotions. They regulate it. So what does Allah say? If you want to hook up, make sure you are married. Because the way that men are, if you do not get a commitment from a man, if you don't get a commitment from him, if you don't get an emotional commitment from him, he's going to dog you. Allah doesn't say he's going to dog you, but that's what it means. You know, that's what it means, right? He's regulated. You got emotional. You got attached. You got emotional. He's not. He's not attached. And so Allah knows. Make sure you marry him. Make sure he marries you. Because his emotional attachment is going to be expressed in his willingness to marry you. If he does not express that to you, if he does not express that emotional attachment to you, don't mess with it. Because you're going to get all emotional, and he's not going to be emotional. He ain't going to be that. And you're going to be wondering why, and you are going to be exploited. See, Allah tells us all these things because he's master of the unseen. He knows the unseen. He knows it. He knows our nature. He knows the nature that he created us in. He knows the nature of men. He knows the nature of women. It's based on our nature. That's why it's called the Deen al-Fitr, the way of life that's based on nature. The way of life that is in accord with nature. It's in accord with nature. It's in accord with our natural selves. Our natural selves. So these things are not designed to hurt us. They're not designed to hurt us. They're not designed to make things harder for us. They're there to protect us. To protect us. So if men have this thing about seeing a human and seeing an object, and then men have this thing about looking. Men have this thing about sight. Men are about sight. Women are about hearing. Psychologists will tell you that. Men are about sight. Men look. That's how men are. They look. And women listen. That's why, like in the hood, you say, rap. I'm going to rap to you. I got some rap. I got some serious rap. You know what I'm saying? Because women are about listening. They're listening to what is being said. Men are about looking. And so Allah tells us, Allah teaches us to deal with each other based on our nature. Based on our nature. Understand each other based on our nature. Because once we understand each other based on our nature, then we'll be able to deal with each other in a better way. You'd be surprised how many people, before y'all get married, those of you who are not married, and those of you who are married will co-sign this, I think, inshallah. Before you get married, understand, learn the nature of women. Before you get married, learn the nature of women. What is the nature of man? Men have a certain nature. Women have a certain nature. Understand what that nature is. Because many times you'll hear women, and I hear wives a lot, and they talk about their husband, and they're ready to pull their hair off, and their husband, and they'll say, my husband, my husband, my husband. And I say, sister, that's not your husband thing. That's a man thing. That's what men do. Vice versa, brother. That's not a your wife thing. That's a woman thing. So Islam teaches us to deal with each other based on our respective nature. That's what Allah gives us. That's what the Prophet did, peace be upon him, all the time. The Prophet, peace be upon him, never got angry at children. How come he never got angry at children? Because children are always into something. If you get angry at a child, every time a child does something, you'll be angry at a child 24/7. Because they get into stuff. Children get into stuff, right? One time he told one of them, like a little boy, go do this for me, go through that foreign, right?